Welcome back to Nonsense, I'm Chris, and President Curtis officially has liftoff.
They spin off so fast.
I give it 10 episodes.
The ratings are very strong for a spin-off and violently stronger than the last spin-off. I thought it was fun, and they did a great job recontextualizing what we've already seen from Curtis and Rick and Morty.
Take him down, simplify.
The arc they're clearly going for, I think, is along the lines of soldier who can't stop seeking out the fight after losing his wife. Another dead wife, I guess. But they were subtle with it. No on-the-nose character building for him, just the other two, because there was no pre-established stuff for them. So let's break the pilot episode down, and the animators did a great job recreating a lot of the real White House locations. You can see they're taking direct cues from the actual White House. When we transition into the briefing room, they've copied everything from the stage setup to the light fixtures, even the seat design. Technically, the opening joke is this ridiculous exchange between two unseen reporters. I'll boost the audio in case you missed it.
What's your source? What's your source?
Just the type of reporter dialogue you write when you don't know what reporters actually say, which is funny. President Curtis walks in to give a press conference about having killed Paul Bunyan, who had apparently become a ravenous beast in this universe. Kinda makes me wonder what happened to his Babe the Blue Ox, because they were usually a pair. If you didn't know, Paul Bunyan wasn't a real person, but basically a folktale and turned into a corporate advertisement, and eventually adapted into children's stories. And that is the show's 10th season arc, I think. What happened to Babe the Blue Ox? And just to say it, doing a Monster of the Week deal is actually pretty well set up for Curtis and Rick and Morty.
Some kind of alien Googa has infested the Kennedy sex tunnels. I want it hunted down and taken out.
He treats us like Ghostbusters.
We should talk to him. When it turns out you wanted someone to come over just because you found an X-Files monster in your basement?
Both Monsters of the Week shows, just saying, he says he killed Bunyan with an
Obsidian boomerang.
An Archvale reference, believe it or not. Someone in the writer's room must be a fan, and obviously this is a reference to Bunyan being a lumberjack.
Timber, bitch.
He gets accused of using taxpayer money to play Batman. They make a joke about Keith David's beautiful voice, which, holy cow, look at the comments under the trailers, and Earth seems to agree. While he monologues, his new chief of staff and series regular, Banks, voiced by the amazing Stephanie Beatriz, walks into the room to be greeted by the other series regular, O'Doyle, voiced by the also amazing Jim Rash, who followed the series creator Dan Harmon over from his other show, Community. We hear his Secret Service codename seems to be Bluebird, which is kinda cute. Banks tries to follow Curtis to the Oval Office, but O'Doyle stops her so we can get some pretty heavy-handed exposition.
You run things by the book when you're not being booked. Ugh, felon much?
More exposition than I expected.
He does this to torture me.
We get shots of his tattoos, which I assume all grant him vague magical abilities, or at least are meant to imply as much. I'll track as we see which does what throughout the series, if any. He accuses Banks of being a doppelgobble, which seems to be a cross between the Thanksgiving monsters from Rick and Morty and the doppelgangers, which, believe it or not, are actual mythical creatures. President Curtis comes back, worried about the press listening to the conversation, while Banks says that nobody here is doppelgobble, but then another reporter walks in, revealing that his lookalike in the press corps was a doppelgobble. O'Doyle draws his customized gun and fires, but the creature regenerates, so he tries 3 other types of ammo, the last of which is Mentos, like Mentos and Diet Coke, which finally keeps the creature from regenerating, and it explodes. And they do a little work on his ammo stuff at the end of the episode, showing his workbench. So as of right now, we know he has Mentos bullets, presumably normal ones, as well as salt, holy water, garlic, frost, silver, and at the end of the episode, he adds EMP for Banks. The theme is completely different from the Rick and Morty theme, way more laid back than I thought it was going to be. Dan Harmon and Ryan Elder, the guy who does the music for Rick and Morty, did the theme, and they had 2 options. This one, which was 80s sitcom style, or a Marvel West Wing mix, and I like the mellow vibes of this one, honestly. I'm not going to describe each shot we get, but I will point out the details in the theme, the first of which are in his medicine cabinet before he punches the ninja. We can see night vision pills. He's also got an extra strength antacid, seems to be a theme for him. Cholesterol, kind of funny, and Noon Quill Severe. In the next shot, we can see on Banks' display that they're in the Blair Woods, like Blair Woods Project, and this has to be the Loch Ness Monster he's motorcycle bombing. He plays baseball with a new alien species I don't believe we've seen before, and the catcher goes floating away. In the miniature shot, we see a Player Sphere issue for Battle Swag. This is obviously the Mothman, staking a vampire. Nobody's gonna tell me this isn't a Batman reference, and it ends with him entering the White House and kicking out another ninja. Starts and ends with a ninja, kind of fulfilling this line later on.
We're adults. We fight ninjas.
And the Oval Office is a basic but accurate representation. The couch, the side door, the desk, even the types of windows. Curtis is having Banks install new languages because she's a cyborg, and on the list we see Mandarin, Italian, binary like how computers are coded. Mogwai is a Scottish rock band and also means devil or demon, so either the devil's language or he's able to speak Scottish. Hieroglyphic, which you can't speak, it's just a writing system. Polish, twin, because people always say twins speak their own language, and cuneiform, which is also an ancient writing system, but obviously she can probably learn any language. O'Doyle doesn't trust her, she learns origami, and we see Curtis has a giant bee in amber. They establish O'Doyle is part leprechaun, and we get a wider shot in order to see a cool rifle, which actually I think is a blunderbuss, and a chalice that's definitely a reference, I just can't figure out to what. No details on her display this time. Some pretty nondescript trophy shelf items when the assistant Janice walks in to tell him about the CIA guy who's here. CIA guy Jack Coffey walks in and does a direct Mission Impossible reference. They establish that Banks' new job has had a new person in the role every week, making the fact that she sticks around after the episode important, and also that Curtis only hires super people. He tricks them into evacuating with a fake bomb so he can go down the direct Batman reference entrance, but first we see Curtis has some kind of writing trophy and some funny books. Die Hard, the novelization, Don Quixote, not a joke, just one of the best books of all time. I can't adequately summarize it in short form, so I'll just say it's meant to add depth to Curtis. Hemingway, Only the Hits. I might be reading too much into it, but I think the joke is supposed to be that he only had hits. The Sirens of Titan, actually a sci-fi comic novel. They're really trying to fill him out as a character in the background here. And finally, Of Mice and Men and Zombies. He opens the secret entrance before the team rushes back in saying,
He went down FDR's fireside shaft.
obviously a reference to the famous fireside chats he held. Inside, there's a training dummy, a map with an X marking the spot, kind of a messy shelf with some weapons at the top, a picture of a puppy underneath, a statue of a bird on some random gemstones and a mini pyramid, and lastly I think these are gold records? Not sure. And back here I think is crystallized xanthanite, the stuff used for interdimensional cable. O'Doyle tracks his aura, the safe he robbed has a box called Project Pillow Talk, he takes FDR's fastest rocket wheelchair, Banks hacks the Frogger reference security system to the experimental vehicle vault, which contains a transformer looking thing, one of these things from Star Wars, the Akira bike, a mini jet, a DeLorean. Is time travel allowed in this show? And something under a tarp, not sure. But the Knight Rider car comes rushing out to pick them up, and they rush after him. I love how she's literally video game controllering the car. They knock him over, causing him to drop what he stole, which Banks runs after as he gets away through a van labeled CIA Vans Hide in Plain Sight. But O'Doyle is Captain America up in here and chases them down before doing a leprechaun dance to dodge bullets, but it turns out the van can also fly. Curtis has this interaction.
Can we do a selfie?
You better believe it.
Obviously referencing the whole fight he and Rick had over a selfie with Morty. Banks recovers the stolen tapes, which turn out to be the moon landing tapes. They do a whole bit about it, but basically the fake moon landing was an unused backup plan in case the real one failed, which it didn't. Banks wants to arrest the CIA guys, but Curtis says no because they have dirt on him, so she quits. We cut to her packing up, and O'Doyle asks for help because he can't find Curtis. And for absolutely no reason at all, she agrees to help, and we cut to the world's greatest carnival in the area. Curtis is in disguise to meet with the CIA guy, which, after another Mission Impossible reference, turns out to still be Jack Coffey, who shoots him and takes the tape back, but he falls for a really crudely drawn-on official CIA van that O'Doyle and Banks did to trap him. They interrogate him on why he wants the tape, and it turns out the CIA left a super baby up on the moon. Banks detects that he's still alive on the moon, and we get a quick Rick and Morty cameo so they can get a spaceship, but it does confirm that this is the President Curtis from the dimension our Rick and Morty are in right now. They fly up to the moon, and inside the base, which he made out of Apollo 14 apparently, there are a lot of little things, but none of them are detailed or labeled, what I usually call nondescript other than the American flag. They see more of the orbs the CIA sent the baby in and wonder where the other babies are. The super baby comes out, obviously an older man by now, and breathing out of his butt. He tells them he ate the other babies and is ready to go back to be president of Earth, like the CIA had apparently been sending him messages saying. They tell him he can't be president of Earth, so he summons his battle bots and turns up the gravity before leaving for their spacecraft, which O'Doyle senses, while Banks hacks the system to reduce the gravity. But her security system won't let her hack US government systems, so she gives them her shutoff code, Nutterbutter, before disabling all her self-security systems, which allows her to even turn off her emotions. So she shuts the gravity off, and Curtis breaks for the moon baby while O'Doyle takes on the bots. Curtis reaches the moon baby in time, and while Banks intentionally makes O'Doyle sick by turning the gravity on and off a bunch, Curtis and moon baby sword fight with the American and MTV flags. Banks knocks out a giant robot that appears using O'Doyle, leaving him down and running away saying she's gonna take over the world and O'Doyle can't remember her shutoff word. Meanwhile, Curtis Curtis is getting very intimate with Moonbaby before Banks runs past him and takes off on the ship. Thankfully, O'Doyle healed and remembered her safe word, so she lands the ship and they cuff Moonbaby, but Banks points out the CIA still has dirt on Curtis, so he says he'll tell the truth now. Cut to them landing on the White House lawn. It turns out he shit himself in the gym and didn't clean up is what the CIA had on him, so he tells the entire press. Afterwards, Banks unquits and we get a little montage, first of her unpacking her picture of herself being born as version 1.0, which is funny, Curtis putting the tape back where we see the pillow talk box again, but also a P-zone box, presumably a joke about them hiding another layer of atmosphere we've damaged as a species like the ozone, as well as Saturn files, LFC Infinity, Y2K, Project Piscetti, and one marked classified, and finally the Project. O'Doyle locks Moonbaby up like Hannibal Lecter, and we get a really on-the-nose bit about what type of villain he is, the others being supervillain, recurring villain, and spinoff, which would be hilarious. Jack Coffey gets in trouble for failing his mission and spins the CIA wheel of punishment, which includes torture, organ harvest, death, prison, slap on the wrist with machete, dare or dare, run 4chan, fingernail swap, fine arts degree, paper cut bath, join the FBI, free spin of genitals, spider box, full custody of your own kids I assume, arms for legs, and fart mask. I already covered the O'Doyle bit here, but it is interesting he has a picture of her. And finally, President Curtis in his US Marine Corps shirt, getting in bed next to his medal display, where we see he made it to First Sergeant, high up but not the top, and the medals I don't believe are meant to signify real ones. He chugs some anti-acid reflux medication and gives a sad look over to his wife's side of the bed, because we don't know anything about that part of his life, like at all. I assume we'll learn more as the series progresses. He goes to sleep sadly and the credits roll. No post-credits scene this episode, though the Rick and Morty pilot didn't have one either. Honestly, a really strong start to the series, great ratings for the opening episode of a spin-off. I am very excited to see where it goes. If I missed anything or got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
They spin off so fast.
I give it 10 episodes.